just getting those dismissed. I think a lot of the other things that were auto pen, they've got evidence he wasn't aware what was being auto pen, so they can get rid of it and dismiss it. So yeah, but I mean, I think overall,
with the pardoning sake, that was the thing. From what I understood, with the auto pen, not even the auto pen, but just the pardoning. If we look at the pardons that Biden gave out before he left, for his family, et cetera, he was pre-pardoning them for crimes they hadn't even been charged with yet. You can't do that. You have to be charged. You can pardon. So kind of tell me
you're guilty without telling me you're guilty.
Right. I think there was something on that. Yeah. Again, I'm not an expert on this stuff, so I don't ever come across as saying I'm an expert on anything. Just from what I understand and what I'm looking into, or things that make you go, right?
Absolutely, man. But I think overall, man, I'm happy in the direction the country's going. I'm seeing more people united, man, and it makes me happy. I'm telling you, man, this past fucking 10 years of goddamn division, well, actually a little bit longer than that. The country kind of united with Obama, but I think we kind of united for the wrong reasons, but I'm glad to see the country united. I'm especially ecstatic to see Black Americans waking the fuck up, man, and stop falling for this bullshit. This bullshit lie that they've been fucking about. I'm so glad Black Americans are starting to wake up and realize. I had, the last 10 years have been hard hitting. Just family gatherings, Thanksgiving, Christmas, stuff like that. Because it's like just some long, drawn out, knockout debates, man. Trying to convince and wake up family members and friends and shit. Like, you're being lied to, man. You gotta stop falling for this shit. Giving them information, giving them articles, showing them videos, having these discussions, man. But last election, man, I had a shit ton of family members who would already be up and down, man. Every family gathering, bro, and they finally started voting for Trump. They started realizing shit, So that's why I say, man, I encourage everybody, man, have the fucking conversation, no matter how tough they are. Have the conversation. Having these conversations is what wakes people up. You ain't gonna save everybody, but having the conversation is better than staying silent, man. Because there's gonna be some ears that perk up and listen, and they're gonna be like, "Oh shit, wow, I never heard that before." Let's dig in a little bit deeper. Oh shit, The next thing you know, you got someone saying, "Yeah, fuck the Democrats, bro. I'm voting," and not just voting Republican, but paying more attention to policies and actions versus the bullshit, lies that are being told to them, falling for that shit.
One more. Isaac, and I want you to go because I can't talk anymore after this. That's why I'm shitting out as much as I can in a short time. I'm in California, so check this out. My gas is down $1.30 in about a month. So we were at $5 a gallon. We're down to $3.70, $3.80 a gallon right now.
Holy
California.
Shit. Wow.
Yeah.
So you got a refinery closing those, Sean B. You guys got a refinery closing, and your gas prices are going to go back up.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, hell, Trump is putting a blockade on Venezuelan oil, saying, you ain't moving that shit anywhere. So we'll see what happens with all that. There's a lot. I'm wondering if our prices will stay the same. So we'll see. I mean, there's those little things happening in the backgrounds, and I'm curious if it will change what's happening here. I have a sense that the prices are going down because Newsom's wanting to try to posture himself before he exits the building. And by the way, we're 10 points up on a possible Republican winning California, and we just passed the redistricting. Talk about double-edged sword. If we get a Republican governor, and the fact that we had a special election that cost California millions, if not billions of dollars. I forget what the total amount was right off the top of my head. That was a double-edged sword, and I said it. If it passed and a Republican governor comes in, that redistricting goes to Republicans, and guess what happens to California? It turns red, baby. I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
Wow. Who is running? Is there a big ticket for the Republicans?
I don't know his name. It'll stick out more when I get the information better. I will definitely bring it up in the future. But something in the future that very well could happen. And I'm really crossing my fingers on this because people are sick of how California's being run, from the LA fires to Newsom's and Newsomisms and shit. I mean, my super left wing clients. I mean, I run a Pilates studio. I'm one of the few Pilates teachers that you'll ever come across that's a conservative, a Trump supporter. And do you think I tell my clients that? No, they would probably beat me. I'll say, yeah, these left wingers though, these left wing Democratic socialists, 80% of my clientele, they hate Newsom, but they will vote anything but Trump, anything but Republican. And but I'll say they're not happy with what's going on with Newsom. So there's a good percentage of them that may very well secretly vote for a Republican governor without
Or they just won't.
saying they
Just won't vote.
or they just won't vote. Yeah. So
Are the majority of your clients female, Sean B?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say I'd say about 65%. I got a good number of men coming in for now because they're realizing Pilates isn't just a women's exercise. Yeah.
What I was gonna say is a concern, and Sig's heard me brought it up. A concern that we kind of have as Americans now is the younger generation. They're not slowly going to fascism; they are excitingly going to fascism, and that's kind of something. I think since we are the older guard, we're gonna have to. It's not even we're gonna have to. The reins are going to them. My concern now, like there are like black people coming out of the dark. That's a good thing. My concern is more towards the younger generation and making sure they do not make a mistake that they don't understand. Because I understand they're angry, they have a right to be, and they do deserve justice. But Sid, you heard the guy. You remember that room I was telling you, this is Gen Z, this is their political view. That is something we do have to make sure, even if there's some, it's not the majority. Because Gen Z women, they don't really have any political views. You start actually grilling them on what do they believe in and why they do it, they don't have an answer. Gen Z men, they are full on, we want to replicate Nazi Germany. It's getting to that point. And we cannot let that happen. We just can't.
Like I said, the biggest part is, we got to do our part to stop demonizing our fellow white Americans, man. And I can't blame them.
100%.
Yeah, if you're walking around, you ain't done shit to nobody. You're being blamed for shit that happened generations before you, out of your control. You ain't victimized to nobody, and you're constantly getting shit on. I can totally understand turning and say, "Yeah, fuck you, motherfuckers too." Yeah, I can. So yeah, we got to do our part, man. We got to spread the message, man. We got to stop demonizing our fellow white Americans, bro. We got to stop doing it, man. We got a lot of white Americans who are in our corner, not to patty cake our buttholes and treat us like wounded animals that are helpless, but to say, hey, black motherfuckers, I don't look at you as black motherfuckers. I look at you as my brothers and sisters under the flag, and I care about you because we're all Americans. And we got to start embracing that, man. Got a lot of great white Americans, man, who are in our corner simply because we're Americans, and they don't give a fuck what we look like. So we got to start realizing that, man. That's the actual truth.
I would say a great way we could do that is start waking up other black people, because they're starting to see the political issues, but I'm pretty sure they're still dark by other. One thing I'm telling, and this is like me more being from the southern end of the United States, I'm telling a lot of southern people that we need to remember the old southern codes. Yes, there was racism, but there was still honor, there was still respect. You just didn't go and betray your neighbor or anything else because of skin color. That's something I know I'm probably going to have to actually take more seriously, because the South is starting to become racist again, but it's not the white people that are doing it. It is a problem. And I guess this war is going to be on the internet more than the bullets, but I think we need to keep it to the internet, because Gen Z, these kids, people are demonizing them, and all I got to say is, you must have never been in a gunfight where you're outnumbered. they will be the outnumbering ones. We do not need that.
Well, are you referring to when you say hold on, please, y'all. When you say the South is getting more racist, but it's not white people, what are you implying there?
I don't know how, but Black activism has infected the South. I cannot explain how. I don't know. Many people that are down there, they don't know. They're like, we don't know what happened, but it got down there. It reared its ugly head. I know Atlanta, for some reason, is like a hotbed of it because I don't know. There's been so much white immigration out of Atlanta. It's kind of scary. But yeah, Atlanta's like kind of a hotbed of Black activism because of that. There's a lot of white people that just leave it because they're like, bro, it's just fucking racist, which I don't blame them. I would leave too. That's kind of what I mean. Like, there are areas of the southern United States that are clearing out because the activism is just disruptive, and we need to bring it back under control. It's not like activism was always allowed, but it was never allowed to the point where you're basically scaring the working population out, which is still majority white in the South. They still build most of the shit.
Right. Yeah, this is something that I really struggle with because, like, I don't know, if my algorithm is just feeding me scary stuff, or if it's like, it's hard to know what to believe, and it's very, very damn near impossible to really sift through and find out, is there a trend? I don't know the answer. Like, is there a trend happening right now of Black criminals or Black people, violent Black criminals who are spontaneously harming white individuals?
Yes.
Because they're white.
Yes.
That's the thing. I don't know. There's no way to figure this out, but it feels like that. It feels that way. You have the lady in Savannah that was just randomly attacked with acid. You have a Hispanic woman who was randomly attacked with acid in South Carolina. Now that those gentlemen were wearing masks, so I don't know their race, so who knows. But the man in Savannah, obviously he was Black. You can see from the footage, and yet none of the news channels are saying that they're looking for a Black man, which is just fucking weird. Like, we can all see he's fucking Black. Like, what are we doing here? And then you have, the other day, there was a Black kid fucking stabbed multiple times, stabbed in the fucking eye, stabbed a white autistic fucking kid. It's fucking at a high school. It's like, how many of these stories happen and we don't hear about it? Like, are we just, they don't want us to hear about this? Or has this always been going on? Or is something happening?
You're saying how we're not hearing about it, but you heard about them, right? Seems like you're contradicting yourself, Holly.
No, what you're saying is it's not blasted and broadcast as much as if it were a white on Black situation. That's what she's saying.
Right. Yeah. Usually when I learn about these things, it's typically not right after the fact. It could be even a year or two later and it's because I'm on Clubhouse and maybe I am scrolling or I'm randomly looking up something and it's just sort of a random thing, right? It's not like everybody's talking about it. Nobody fucking knows about this thing in Savannah. I happen to know because I happen to be just I don't know, man. It's random. I stumble upon it, but. Joe, you can say what you want, man. You're in Canada. I don't fucking care. But I'm telling you, as a white woman, it's I'm not even allowed to even say out loud, I'm a little scared. Shut up. You know what? You're fucking obnoxious. Don't fucking annoy me right now. You are such a fucking cop.
Holly, you just said I could say what I wanted. So why are you crying?
Don't be a
No, I just want to say one thing, and you can boot me off your stage.
Jarl, Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas.
What's up, Trump?
Trump tweets about illegal immigrants, or I don't know, Haitian lesbian street gangs, or what else? What's the other country he's targeting lately? Another Black country. My point is, Trump posts truth socials on a daily basis targeting these minority groups. Never is he tweeting about white people other than to say they're victims. So I don't know what you're talking about, Holly, because over the last year, there's a hell of a lot more media pushing this white replacement theory than there is anybody saying what you're doing. I'm not seeing these articles that are trying to pretend that black people are the big victims of white people. In fact, it's the opposite. You don't see the president tweeting about how, oh, black people are victims of white people. No, it's the opposite. You have the president passing laws so white people can sue universities for discrimination. You're living in a delusional world of your own strawman creation. It's not real, Holly.
So, Holly, as someone, I don't know about anyone else on the stage, as someone from the southern region of the U.S., even though it's the tip of it, this is not common, this is not normal. I will tell you, in the majority of cases, criminals attack people, criminals rob people. You did not have a lot of race-based crime. It was an occasional thing that happened randomly out of the blue. But you are not losing your mind. I don't know what the hell you're always talking about. Maybe it's too much internet. I'm from that part of the country. It is not normal. In most cases, you didn't even really have black people around white people to that extent. You had mixing in certain areas, but most areas were still largely white, largely black. That was it. There was no discussion. I think this is kind of what I was saying before. I think because of the activism and because of the invitation to violence that the South does have, that's kind of where I'm thinking a lot of this is coming out. Because before, you couldn't catch black people randomly attacking anyone in most cases. It was either street crime, gunfights due to something dealing with gangs or drugs, or you did have the random one-off of two people had a disagreement and it resorted to shooting. That was more or less what was expected. This is not normal. Anyone that tries to say, oh, blah, 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 something internet, I'm from the region. It is not normal. This was never a thing. So you're not losing your mind. It is definitely a concern, and that's kind of what I was saying. I don't know how, but black activism has affected the South and us and many other people. We need to figure out how to recorrect it, because the South has been largely stable in terms of race well over 93 years, believe it or not, going close to 93 years. We do not need this at all.
Thank you, Isaac. I really appreciate that. And I did want to tell you, you were right about the mass exodus going on. Maybe that's a little dramatic terminology, but in Atlanta, this past year, I believe, we had the first time, I might butcher this, but first time in a long time, okay, if not ever, where population actually contracted, it decreased. So you're right, people are leaving, and some people are like, yay, we want less people. Then you think, but what if the good people are leaving? Atlanta.
Taxes are going to go up to make up for the politicians, people running the city, that tax base and vote out, so there's the taxes over everybody else. It's crazy. But Jarl, come on, man. We got plenty of data, plenty of stats showing that, talk about probably maybe 4 to 5% of the black population is outrageously violently victimizing whites, bro. It's just, it's young black males, man, and they're committing the majority of the fucking crime, and they commit more crime. I think the majority of crime are still committed by white people. Violent crime. They're overrepresented. You're right. I still think you're wrong, Sega. We could fact check this.
It's called per capita, Joe. Do you know what per capita is, Joe?
Well, yeah, that's the only way you would count. That's the only way you could count, the race versus race.
So then what's so confusing,
That's not
Jarl?
the other way. You could
Even in the raw numbers, Charles, even in the raw numbers and per capita.
right.
Commit the majority
raw
of
numbers is what I was referring to. I thought that's what you were referring to.
Raw numbers are wrong.
But okay, but do you acknowledge that black people are 7 times more likely to be exonerated for crimes, meaning they were falsely imprisoned? Because I feel like that you have to like acknowledge that if you're going to acknowledge the other part.
Your stat is from 2015 and has never been updated since then, so you can't use that.
Why not?
Because it's in 2015. Today is 2025. That's a 10-year-old stat.
That's 3,650 days of new data, Jarl.
Right.
Yeah, it would have to get updated for one. Like, I know what you're talking about. That was in 2015.
So why do you think it hasn't been updated then? Like, I don't know. It's the best number we have, so I'm going to use it. And if you were willing to acknowledge it, then you have to ask the next logical question is, why are black people so often falsely imprisoned? And then it becomes obvious that it's a little more complicated than just saying, oh, black people are more violent. That's clearly not what's happening.
Here's why you're wrong. The amount of black people that actually have criminal records since 2012 has dropped by 68%. Did you know that? In 2012,
No.
Of course, Jarl. Jarl is an expert in black statistics. Didn't you know he has a PhD in black statistics?
No,
Did you know he has a
yeah,
PhD in black
black
statistics?
people, one, do not have records, and then two, there's even less who are actually in the criminal system. So when you go for the whole wrongful conviction argument, I am not saying it does not happen. But the issue is black people in 2025, actually no, in 2021 had left 53% of black people. It would say reduction to 53%. And that wasn't from 2011 to 2021. That was 2016 to 2021. So you can't use wrongful imprisonment or wrongful conviction when the amount of people that actually get records decreases. That's why I said the stat has to be updated because it is from 2015. 2025, I'm pretty sure you would have a hard time finding the actual number because the actual number of black people with any conviction or any criminal record went down so much that is almost non-countable. How exactly would you do those numbers?
Right. So maybe you're right, but the idea that within a decade, like the entirety of black people in America are supposed to just kind of like improve their life and stop because I'm sure you'll agree with me if you live in a more difficult situation, these things are more likely to happen, right? It's like redlining and all these things. So like black people are just supposed to like get over it and catch up to the rest of society within 10 years. And that's silly, but that's not true. That's obviously not going to happen, right? No oppressed group in any country recovers within a decade like that.
Okay.
Especially not when it's 400 years of slavery and redlining and a bunch of discrimination.
But Jarl, the group of blacks, the Negro generation of blacks that actually were neck deep in the redlining and the Jim Crow and the slavery and all that, they have better stats than the people that are in this generation, Charles. So there's no excuse for this generation. There's no excuse.
Like
way better stats.
The average black person that was a child in racism today is above $78,000 a year. Above, not below, not making it, not just getting there. Above. The income for the people you're describing, for the people that you said even were close, because many of those people are old now, so it doesn't even matter. But for the ones that you're describing, did face some discrimination. You're talking about 57 or older. Those people are above the income of 78 grand. 78 grand is the bare minimum most of them make. Most of them. And then above 80% above it. So the argument just does not exist. They have way drastically improved, way past anything they could probably think of back then. So So no, you can't use the argument of still downtrodden, still oppressed, still this, still that, when in 10 years, the only population that is kind of underneath the conditions and bell curve is a population that just got out of high school 4 years ago, which is normal because all of them are in that boat. So no, you can't use slavery, redlining, and everything else, because when you do the actual numbers, not per capita, over 80% of them make above 78K a year. So you can't even use that argument anymore.
Yeah.
I can't use that argument, and I did.
Yeah, Jar. So I linked the 2019 Table 43 from the United States FBI. So
2019?
2019, yeah, 2019.
Yeah, okay, well, that's 6 years old, so may as well throw that in the garbage too, right?
Well, they're pretty consistent across the board. That's the first one I clicked on, but I'll grab
That's 4 years. That's 4 years newer than the statistic Isaac just told me we can't use because 10 years is too old.
Okay, well, let me find a newer one, but these stay pretty consistent.
I actually agree with. I'm not denying the statistics thing. It was just making the point that like 6 years, 10 years, not a big difference. But go ahead.
But yeah, I mean, in this case here, murder and non-negligent manslaughter, whites committed 3,650 of these crimes, while blacks 4,078. For robbery, whites were at 25,000, blacks were at 29,000. All right, so that's abysmal for 13% of the population, and it's really lower than that. I'd say probably around 5%, give or take a point or two, because it's mostly young black men that are committing these crimes. So you're talking about 5% of the population is overtaken the white population, which blacks pale in comparison.
12.2% of the population. I don't know why you're saying 5. It's 12 points. Black people make up 12.2% of the population.
Yeah, but listen to what I said. Black women ain't commit these crimes. Black children ain't commit these crimes. Black elderly. It's younger black men. So you drop that down to about 5%.
It's the same thing for white people, though. Right? It's white men committing the majority of the crimes, so you could say the same thing.
White men commit majority of the crimes?
Way more white men. There's way more white men than black men, than young black men. There's way more younger white men than there are younger black men. So there's no way we should see these rates. We should see 5% of the black population overshadowing the white population when it comes to certain crimes. Now, if you go down the list, there's other crimes. Yes, raw numbers, white people dominate. But if you look at the differences between the whites and the blacks, most of these we're meeting them at about 50%. So most of these, if white people did it 200,000 times, we're right there at 100,000 times. If whites did it at 100,000 times, we're right there close to 50,000 times we did it. There's no way we should be 50% of what whites are doing. We should
But it's systemic racial oppression.
About 5% of what whites are doing.
You should be like, I find you're saying it a bit weird. Maybe you're saying the same thing, but you should be proportional to your population, right? If
yes.
Black people are 12.2% of the population, logically they should commit 12.2% of the crime. I'm not denying your numbers. I just think they're a lot more complicated than some people hate them. I think that there are reasons that black people are committing more crimes in America other than they're black. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're poor, right? I think if you just looked at the same crime statistics and said, do poor people commit more crimes than rich people? Absolutely, 100%. And it's not even just that. The other statistic that I think is important to look at is, and this one exists, I could look it up, is the average punishment for, like, if you have more money, your punishments will be less severe. You're less likely to be found of a crime and you're more likely to get off. So again, like, these statistics are skewed by these facts, right? I'm not denying the numbers you're claiming. I'm just saying, if black people are less rich, then they're more likely to be found guilty, they're more likely to get caught, and they're more likely to get severe punishments because they don't have as good defense.
Great, Jarl, we get it.
There are statistics.
So, Jarl, if you were the president, Jarl, what would you do? What would you do for we the people, Jarl, if you were in charge?
Well, I'd stop talking about white replacement theory as if it's a real thing. That's the first thing.
Beautiful. So here's the actual problem. This country is
beautiful.
Contrary to the numbers, non-Black Americans, the poorest group in this country is still Native Americans. Now, for all the issues Native Americans have, a high murder rate is not one of them. A high assault rate is one of them, but a high murder rate is not one of them. So if your argument was accurate, they should have killed themselves and blind themselves out of existence. Yet they don't. And then you go to the next poorest group. Guess who it is?
Hispanic.
No,
So
no, not Hispanic.
I actually like your example. No, but wait, let's stick to the native example. Okay.
No. There's a reason I'm saying this. The next poorest group in America,
White.
white working Americans, they are still at the bottom. Now they have a large avenue of income from 16,000 all the way up to 172,000. But for some reason, it's a wide breadth of income you could go to. But the poorest are between the 10,000 to 23,000. That's where the vast entirety of white or impoverished Americans are. And despite that, the highest crimes that they have is alcoholism, drug use, and domestic violence. Theft, murder rate, and things like that, it's nowhere near the same level as Black Americans. It's not even close. You can go to these areas individually. You will have the things I just mentioned happening normally. But murders, theft, things like that, maybe every once or maybe every 5 times in a year that'll happen. Maybe. And I've lived in these places. I've been to them.
Isaac, didn't you hear what Jarl said? If he was in charge, the first thing he would do for We the People is get all of Americans to stop talking about white replacement theory. That's the type of plan that Jarl has for We the People. It's really very inclusive and extremely exciting.
You're putting words in my mouth. I'm saying, as the president, the president should stop spewing conspiracy theories like white replacement theory.
Yeah, that's what you would do. It's such an incredible plan, Jarl. Like, you will save America with that plan. It's really exciting, Jarl. Congratulations.
That does go against the First Amendment because you can't say what you want as long as it's not saying terrorism.
As the president, I would choose not to promote conspiracy theories. I wouldn't censor other people. Jesus Christ, guys.
Hey, real quick before I lose you guys, I just want to say I think the big differential between poor whites and poor blacks, though, when it comes to violent crime rate, is because most poor whites live in sparsely populated areas, more rural, and most poor blacks live in inner city, and so you're gonna have like more density and more opportunity for other people.
No, I agree with that. And
Jarl, I got you, Jarl.
it still doesn't explain why, okay, you go to the areas where there are still large amounts of white people, and they are still not at a comparable income level. They're actually kind of trapped in place because of their income level. You actually have less crime. Take a place like upstate Georgia. Upstate Georgia is not rich. Anyone can tell you that. Not even close. They are anywhere between 52 to maybe 46,000 a year. Despite that, they don't have insane crime rates, and they do have large towns. They don't have small towns or derelict, used to be mining places. No, these are large, sizable towns of close to 500 to maybe a little bit over 600,000 people. And still don't have violent crimes. While you go to a black area of a comparative size, it's a toss-up. Some don't, a lot do. And that's kind of what I mean when I say, even when you get into the income and the comparable population densities, you still do not have the insane level of crime.
Well, it's the white replacement theory that Jarl is suggesting. If these people didn't believe in white replacement theory, they wouldn't be self-destructive, right, Jarl?
I just think it's playing victim. But just really quick, Isaac, to respond to your point, you're wrong on one point. The black community is 36.4 of the population. I'll just say the rates. Black people commit violent crimes at 2.9 times their per capita. Let's put it that way. Whites at almost 1.0. Asians at 0.28. But if we look at American Indian, it's 3.3 times the rate, which is higher than black people. If we look at Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders, it's 3.0, which is 0.1% higher than blacks. So again, like, I don't know why you said blacks were so much higher, because they're lower than natives and Hawaiians.
I said in the beginning that indigenous populations have a higher assault rate. I did say that. They have a higher assault rate than anyone. That is what I was saying, higher rates of assault. But when you actually start studying the type of crimes they commit, murder is usually not one of them. Higher rates of assault, yes. They do fight each other and put each other in the hospital by a lot. But it's not death. It's not shot. It's not grievous harm or injury. It's like one got cut, one did a fight. That's kind of what they are doing. That's their violent crime. You go to black areas, death. A lot of the crimes are murders. That's a very big difference.
Media, and this is extremely semantic, so I apologize, but we should be saying found guilty of crimes, because just because somebody was found guilty of a crime doesn't mean they committed a crime, right? Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I would agree with that. That will definitely be a fair point. But I don't think it's. I don't know, man. I'm willing to bet, and again, I will concede to your point. I'll acknowledge that point. It's a fair point, Jarl. But I'm willing. If I was a betting man, Jarl, I don't think it's that far off, man. I really don't. I really don't.
Per capita, African Americans commit 10x the number of crimes of white people. It's not 3 times, it's 10 times. That's the real statistic.
You see how you calculate that? Because population, black people commit crimes at 3 times the rate of the population size. Like, what you're saying, I don't know how you're calculating 10x. I'm not denying it. I just how are you calculating this? Proportional to the population size, it's 3 times maybe.
I don't think I can explain statistics to somebody who thinks that their first priority as the leader of America is to abolish the conspiracy that white people are being replaced. If that's your game plan, there's no point in arguing with you, Charles. You're just a moose head from Canada. You're nothing but a moose. You hear me, moose?
He's talking about the total count, which would be 10 times the amount if you would have counted all. But you're right about the 2.9 rate. The rate is 2.9. The total count, he is correct. When you accumulate it all together, is 10 times.
Sorry, Sid, go ahead.
The breakdown here is so non-Hispanic whites, according to the 2025 census, represent about 60% of the country. And that's about on par with the percentages of arrests for crimes, according to the FBI. At about, looks like here, probably about 50 to 60%. A little bit higher than that, actually. I'd probably give a little bit of grace and go a little bit higher than that. Hispanics are about 20% of the population. They're right on par with about 20%, 19% or so. Blacks make up 12.6% of the population. They're on par for about 26.6% of crimes committed. And it says other races, it gave a 4%, but Asian, mixed breed people, American Indian, Alaskan, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander. So Asian is saying 6.7% of the population, plus that's 8-9%, 2.5 for mixed people. So that's about 9%, and then 0.7 and 0.2. So you're talking about 10% So 10% representation for Asians, mixed people, American Indian or Alaskan Native, Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander, and they're represented by 4% of arrests for crimes.
And don't forget, these police departments have been fudging the numbers. When you're black or Hispanic, you're labeled as white, and we all have seen that in the media, and we all know it's true.
And that's true. Yeah, DC just got fucking busted for fudging their numbers, their crime stat numbers, to have it reflect less poorly on blacks. So, I mean, we've seen instances like that. Now, another thing, too, people bring up, to be fair, is that not all states report the data, so we got to take that into consideration as well. But, I mean, from what the information that we do have, it looks like the other races are pretty much on par with their population representation. Blacks literally have the highest representation, disproportionate representation for their race. So, and I know, Jar, you said you acknowledge that, whatever, but when we talk about the reasons why, it's not because we're saying, oh, they commit crime because they're black. There's a huge culture of violence, Jar. Have you ever heard of drill rap or listened to this American rap culture? Have you heard some of the shit that they rap about? And the culture that
they music in Canada and we don't commit crimes.
What's that?
The music is international, and the rest of the world isn't committing crimes because of American rap music.
Well, I'm saying the subgenres, the violence subgenres, those aren't distributed in other countries as much as they are here in the States. Like drill rap. You ever heard of Chicago drill rap?
Of course, we have drill rap here too.
Right, but that type of music, what it promotes, and then you see the areas where it's heavily played and heavily listened to. There's a shit ton of crime in those areas, and the sources that they originate from, Jarl. And then too, that your guys' culture isn't as violent either. But then even if we go on to the UK, I mean, blacks are having the same issues. They disproportionately represent a lot of the knife crimes and violent crimes over in the UK as well. So they have the same issues, and that drill rap, which pertains to the black culture over there, it is just as violent. Just as violent as the American culture. So there's a lot of violence that comes from the rap and the hip hop culture, and it does influence a lot of these fucking kids and these younger generations, man.
I'm back. Okay. I just want to say also, what scares me, and Joel can call me a victim or whatever, blah, blah, blah. What makes me feel uncomfortable is that I don't trust. Okay, it's so quick. They're so quick to label it a hate crime if it's, a Jewish victim or a black victim, but very, very slow to label it a hate crime if it's a white victim, if they label it that at all, even if there is justification for that. I'll give you one example. Similar crimes. A couple years ago, there was an autistic kid on a subway in Manhattan who was being beaten up by what looks like to be a Hispanic group of teenagers. And they labeled that a hate crime almost immediately. The initial reports, NYPD is investigating hate crime, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward to another example similar, what I just told you guys about in North Atlanta High School. Black kid stabbing with scissors in the face, in the eyeball, multiple times, a white autistic kid. Any mention of hate crime? No.
No!
Mention of the kid's black that's stabbing it, by the way. That's more like that. So everyone else is kind of letting that cat out of the bag, right? Because there's video. But anyway, they don't talk about hate crime. Oh, and by the way, he actually yelled at this kid, "You white bitch." Okay, tell me there's something wrong with this picture. We can't even know what the data is on these random or, hate crimes against us.
Holly, don't talk to Jarl to confirm your bias. Holly, Jarl isn't going to confirm your bias. Jarl is a woke, leftist, socialist, communist, Marxist, trans feminist fucking loser. That's what Jarl is, Holly. He's not going to confirm what you're saying.
All right.
what
this
makes
is the problem.
So hold on, Nurse Swag, Merry Christmas, man.
Transfer this fucking loser.
Merry
Is that gonna confirm what you're saying?
Say, Josh, Merry Christmas.
Whoa.
Merry Christmas to you and Happy Hanukkah.
And happy Hanukkah, shalom to you, normal.
Yeah.
Happy Hanukkah to all my Jewish brothers and sisters out there. Happy
All the same to you.
Shabbat shalom. If that's the.
It's not about
My bad, I heard that on here. I think he was trolling, but yeah.
Happy Hanukkah to you.
Anybody can quote Charlie Kirk.
I'm Asian. You gotta wish me a happy New Year, Dragon New Year. So this is the problem, Holly. That that has been said since 1962. So I do have to normally don't defend the blacks, because I normally think that the blacks in America are a cursed people and they need to be replaced by more efficient blacks from maybe even Polynesia or Melanesia. But the issue is this: the "you white bitch" has been said since the 60s. That's sort of a response due to when the integration happened, and the blacks were integrated with the whites. Of course, all types of shit was said. These nappy-headed Negroes, am I allowed to say cursing here?
Absolutely.
These 1960s whites said, "You nappy-headed niggers, we don't want you here," blah, 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 right? So that has been a response. It's been a response for about, maybe it's overshot by now, because obviously that's not happening anymore. But to your point, if we wanted to calculate that, we would have to then remove whether that was a response to an instigation. And also the problem is this: we do have to factor in that unfortunately the FBI and certain institutions which put the crack in the community, which gave birth to the crack babies, and the crack babies are often the ones who are saying, "Oh, you white bitch," on the New York City subway. I can tell these guys who are my age, who are likely crack children, they're the main ones saying it. So I do have to put some blame on the whites for that, because they did flee from New York and they let the degeneration and the urban blight happen for about 30 years. Then they came back and they expected to be welcomed with open arms.
Nerd, you're gonna blame white people?
Yeah, because you can't abandon an entire city.
You're blaming Barry Seal and Bill Clinton. Then is essentially who you're blaming.
No. When Michael Bloomberg started to make it, a little, obviously Giuliani and then Michael Bloomberg made it for, then all the whites came back and they expected things to be as they left it in the 50s. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. So you have to address some of the socioeconomic issues that resulted from a white flight situation. And that may sound like an overcomplication, but that's why in a lot of urban cities you're having the "hey, white bitch," because these are the children who were left behind in the 80s and 90s due to the war on drugs that has to be addressed.
Well, let me just land real quick, then I'll let somebody else. What I'm saying is, though, fine, call names. That's fair. But when you call a name whilst you stab someone in the eyeball, that becomes a hate crime to me, okay? When you're saying white bitch and you're stabbing me in the eye, let's do the math here. And to avoid labeling that a hate crime is very concerning to me, because it makes me wonder how many of these instances are out there that have not been labeled a hate crime. Therefore, myself, and people who look like me, we will never know if we need to keep our head on a swivel or not. We will not have the privilege, like, with all due respect, El Normo or even black folks, of knowing if there is a trend in hate crimes, random hate crimes, for example, that we need to maybe be more aware of. And that makes me feel very uncomfortable in this country.
Holly, are you not paying attention, Holly? You don't need guys like Jarl or Nerd to confirm your suspicion, Holly. You do keep your head on a swivel and you do stay alert. There are low IQ terrorists.
this is a fair point. You should have some type of heads up. I would suggest using the Citizens app and just looking at general crime. You're not going to know if it's white specific, but to your point about
you can fairly estimate it's going to be black specific, Holly.
well, actually, I completely agree. It should be labeled a hate crime. The issue tends to be there are so many harassers that's literally saying that shit every day out of mental illness. They're also saying, hey, Arabian bitch. Hey, Jewish bitch. Like they're saying the spectrum. So a lot of these people are mentally ill. They're crack babies. They're on drugs. The last thing I'll say is this: if there's a broad issue with hate crimes against whites, again, I would implore the whites to ensure that they reinvest in the communities that they're moving to, because again, these communities have been underfunded for 50 years, and now all of a sudden people are moving back in. They want safe school districts, all that. That's not going to happen overnight. You've got to figure out a way to put the funding there so that there's actually police, security, etc., to get these elements under control.
So you mean the property tax has to go up? So homeowners got to pay more to keep themselves safe because the previous political leaders did nothing to stop this epidemic of crack baby drug addicts harassing everybody in the streets. Thank you very little, Nerd.
So I just want to say, Eric, I brought any crack into any place. So that's a weird myth that should be debunked at every turn. That's one. Number two, Giuliani and Bloomberg did indeed bring high-income people back into the city and transform the city from being dirty for broke and to one of the safest cities, certainly of its size, in the world, on the planet, and made New York better in countless ways, from the public spaces, whether it's Central Park or Brooklyn Bridge Park or Prospect Park, to the High Line, to the waterways, all of them transformed by the coffers, by the tax base of the people that came back because Giuliani set the mold and made the city safe again. And murders went down from approximately 3,000 murders per year down to under 300, which is a staggering tenfold improvement, and saved, you do the math, 2,700 lives per year over, say, 25 years minimum. So multiply your 2,700, your 27 years times the 100 people per year that did not get slaughtered, mainly by the way black and brown people in emerging neighborhoods. So, and I don't have any doubt that the people who did come back to the city and begin to transform marginal or emerging neighborhoods, say, Brooklyn is a good example, Bed-Stuy if you wish, but also whether it's Hell's Kitchen or Lower East Side or Chinatown, all of those places became upscale, more upscale anyway. Even in tenement housing stock, they became much more safe and livable. So, I mean, that transformation is real, and it comes out of people who are able to be safe in their neighborhoods, particularly, I'm going to say, women, because they're more vulnerable, and kids, and older people. So, I support the transformation of cities into safer places. About hate crimes against white folks, well, I guess there's some now and then, and they'll prosecute them. No offense, Holly, but I don't really see them as a big thing. I don't see it. It's just crime, period, that's a problem. It's not just
all crime is hate crime. It's only the liberal Democrats that started calling it hate crime to give a special label for white people. The whole thing is ridiculous. When you murder somebody, when you violently attack somebody, that is a fucking hate crime. It doesn't matter what the fuck your race is.
But I don't think a hate crime is a real offense in America. It's when they punish you for an actual crime. If it was a hate crime, you might get a more severe punishment. That's literally all it means. And then I don't know what you're like criticizing, Holly. If these people were found guilty of crimes and they were sent to prison for quote unquote hate crimes, what do you want the system to do more than that? White people can declare hate crimes, and black people can be found guilty of whatever the hell you're claiming. I don't know what you want more to happen if people were put in prison for this.
Okay, to correct a couple of things. One, the people that actually saved New York was the Italian Mafia for 57 years. The guys you just mentioned, Eric, son of, can't agree with that. Cannot agree with that. I learned actual New York City history. The Mafia make it safe. They just aired it after the Mafia was in prison. Second thing, the CIA told you, it has documents that you can search out. They did give a bunch of guns and drugs to derelict low income in minority areas. They 100% did. You can look it up. You can literally go on the CIA website and go find it. So I don't know what that was said. Third thing, hate crimes are a different crime compared to regular. It is against a protected or marginalized people in America that have one or another status. Let's say someone came from a war-torn area for some goddamn reason in the world. You attack that person, that is a hate crime because that is a refugee in America. That is a hate crime. So I don't know where you're getting it's the same offense when clearly, according to the actual law, it is not the same.
There are states that have hate crime laws, and there are other states that use hate crime as an enhancement, which I think is what y'all was getting at. So if one committed a heinous act and also was yelling a racial epithet while they did it, then it would bump the crime, the penalty way up. And I challenge you, you will not find one single case of somebody from government bringing guns or drugs into any community in America. It's a complete urban myth. I know that Freeway Ricky Ross had some plug. It was also a CIA or FBI informant. That means he was a criminal. That doesn't mean he was with the government. And I know that what's his name, Gary Webb. I was following this in real time. He wrote some articles for the San Jose Mercury News, but those series of 3 articles were completely debunked by superior journalistic outfits. So nobody sold any crack in the ghetto. That's how I mean it. And by the way, the Black Congressional Caucus of Black communities were loudly demonstrating for drug laws. These weren't something that were imposed by right-wingers. They were in response to communities that were being destroyed by these drugs.
El Normo, they had to, I'll keep this quick, pass it to Holly. They had to do it because they had to fund the, whatever they're doing with the Nicaraguan government.
Iran-Contra, yeah, that never touched the United States, though. They never brought any good drugs to the
They
US.
had to ensure that they could raise funds for the opposition government they were trying to battle the socialists with. So that's why they dropped off the crack, to make sure that, okay, now there's a customer base. These people can get funding for the government we want to oppose, in Nicaragua. So that's very clearly happened.
Yeah, there's no case of the government bringing drugs into this country.
El Normo, you're never going to win with these people. They totally believe white people are responsible for everything.
You go look and see if you can find a single piece of documentation. You can't. I just mentioned 2 very sort of far-fetched sources on the matter, both of which have been debunked. And yes, there was a thing called Iran-Contra. Oliver North went to prison for it. It was under Ronald Reagan, but it had to do with Iran and Nicaragua. The U.S. was not part of that. And yes, the U.S. was backing the anti-communist forces in Nicaragua, which were defeated democratically subsequently and have remained defeated. And the U.S. has an interest in not allowing our enemies like Soviet Union and now Russia to gain a foothold in our neighborhood. That's the right thing to do, is to oppose the incursion of the Soviet Union or China or Russia.
Listen, going back to hate crime, you got to realize that it is a double standard and hypocritical. When a black person kills a white person and calls that person a white bitch and isn't charged on a hate crime, we have a judicial problem where real crime, real murder does not result in capital punishment. There would be no hate crime if you were murdered for committing murder in this country, but we do not have that anymore. We have woke, liberal, Democrat, communist, Marxist judges releasing murderers back into society to specifically target white people. So white people, if you think you're not the fucking target, go get on a public train sometime and find out how quickly you are the target.
Do you have any evidence for this absurd conspiracy theory of the government releasing people who are going to target white people and murder them? Because that's fucking delusional.
No, Jarl, you're fucking delusional. I live in Chicago. I'm telling you what I see, what I read, what I hear, what's in the news. It's everywhere, Jarl. We live in an epidemic of Democrat clowns who are now our judges. We need to do what they did in El Salvador with what's-his-face, who took the whole fucking country over and got rid of every fucking judge who was releasing every murderous criminal gang member back into society to continue to kill society. Jarl, you're the brain rot, and you got here with brain rot. There's no fixing you. You have brain rot, Jarl.
Chill out, dude. America has the most prisoners per capita in the world. Okay, so I don't know why you want to put more people in prison. That's the first thing. The second.
No, we're not putting them in prison. We're sending them to the afterlife, Jarl. We're sending them straight to heaven. There's no more release. There's no more capture. You're going straight to heaven, Jarl.
And the other thing I was going to mention is if you listen to Holly's story, right, people were charged with hate crimes against white people. People are constantly being charged with hate crimes against white people. So you're just making shit up, right? You can be charged with hate crimes against white people, and it does happen. In fact, I shared a statistic that shows that 10.3% of hate crimes in America are against white people. So what do you guys want the society, what do you guys want that?
We want to stop spreading the conspiracy theory that white replacement isn't real, Jarl. Listen, Jarl, you cannot lead anything. You're a moosehead.
It's not real. You're delusional if you believe in white replacement.
Jarl, you're delusional if you come on this app 80 hours a week and talk about white replacement theory.
Why are all your leaders white old men, you idiot? Why are your leaders?
Because Bernie Sanders is a fucking liar. Bernie Sanders has gotten $30 million in big pharma money. Bernie Sanders has gotten hundreds of millions of dollars from every major industry in the whole fucking planet. And that's why Bernie Sanders gave it to Hillary Clinton, because he's a fucking liar. And he's a fucking schmuck. And so are you, Jarl.
Your current leader, first of all, and wokeness, right? And fucking slave history museums, is constantly banning this shit. You live in a society that believes what you believe, that believes white replacement theory is destroying Europe. So you're actually delusional for pretending like it's the other way around. You motherfuckers control this society. If there's any other...
You motherfucker, you're delusional, Jarl. You're talking to a fucking random person on a social audio chat app. You're projecting. You're delusional.
Can I please get? Okay. Jarl, again, just listen with your ears. I said the kids in Manhattan who were, let's be Hispanic from the video, they were charged with a hate crime. That happened very quick. Oh, I hope I don't lose y'all. The white boy that was just stabbed here, I have seen nothing, no mention of hate crime in anything thus far. You're right. They could come out with a hate crime, but so far they haven't. My point is, it seems to me you're very quick to jump on the hate crime